Hello, and welcome back. It has been a while. So I know it's been like 2 months since I posted like a full-length podcast, and if I'm being honest, I actually filmed one last month and just kind of never could find the time to sit down and like edit the whole thing, so I never obviously ended up posting it. So I have quite a bit to cover today because there is quite a bit of material to go over. I've been busy knitting. It has been a like incredibly cold and awful weather January and February, so honestly I've really had the urge to knit because I want to do something cozy, so I've been busy. Now the first thing I want to talk about is the elephant in the room that you might recognize if you've been here at all, is the fact that the cable knit sweater is done and I'm wearing it and I love it so much. If you've watched any of my podcasts, you've probably heard me talk about like how long this has taken me and how time consuming it's been, and oh my gosh, has it been so worth it. The last time I talked about this was in my December podcast, and I had quite a bit left to go. I had made quite a bit of progress, but I was still pretty far from being done. Well, near the end of the year, I was really trying to get it done before the end of the year. So in January, it's like I could kind of have a clean slate, and it didn't happen, but I did get everything but like the second sleeve started. So like I was pretty well underway. But it took almost the entire month of January to do the second sleeve because I got stuck on Sleeve Island hard. So I did finish it like the first week of February or so. So I have had it done a little bit and I've worn it a couple times, and it is so warm and cozy and comfy. I love it so much. If you are first tuning in, so you're not familiar with the project, this is a self-drafted pattern that I made myself, obviously, and it was work. I started this in like late August because I thought, I'll get to wear it this winter, and oh my gosh, it was so time consuming. I don't even know exactly how long. The closest estimation that I can make is when I first started it, each row, because I did in panels, the front and the back, each row just across the one panel took me like 15 minutes. And because I know like my cable repeats, I can like estimate that just the body of the garment took me about 40 hours. So like add to that, doing like the color ribbing and both sleeves, I don't even know, maybe like 60 or 65 hours. It's hard to say. It took a long time because I've been working on this since August. I used, my main strand is 100% alpaca yarn. It's a like champagne color. So that's what gives it kind of just like the, I don't know, kind of reminds me of like oats type color. And then I had a strand of undyed Surrey alpaca and a really, really fine strand, like barely even probably lace weight, that I took apart from a cashmere sweater that I got at a thrift store, which I don't know if I'll ever do again because it was so tedious. And by the end, I was running out of what I had, like at the very beginning of the project, I unwound a bunch and had like 2 little cakes that I was using off of that I was like, oh, these will last the whole time. Well, the second sleeve, I ran out. And so I was unwinding as I needed it. But the sweater I chose to take apart was like helical knitting. So I had like 2 strands constantly going, which was such a headache, and it's so fine that if I pulled on it too hard, it would tear. It wasn't super washed, so I did a lot of felting. Like the splicing, that's what I mean, the spit splicing, really delicious. So that was good, but oh my gosh, it was so tedious. I did use quite a bit of the sweater, but I will not be doing that again because that was not fun. That was also why Sleeve Island lasted so long, because I would get to the end of like the little ball of yarn I had made and not work on it for like a week because I didn't want to do that again. But she is finally complete. In total, with all my strands, I estimated that I used about like 3,000 yards of yarn. So it's a pretty significant garment. If anything though, I probably could have used more. there's always things, I don't know if everybody else is like this, but I feel like there's always things with sweaters when I'm done that I'm like, this is good, but I change this in the future. I purposefully made the sleeves a little short because it's mostly alpaca, and I have heard tell that alpaca stretches out a bunch. So I didn't make them like as long as I normally would, and I don't think they're too short. They're sort of like a bracelet length. It's kind of hard to tell because I've got a shirt on underneath, but I've worn it and like it's not a weird, like it's not an uncomfortable length. And maybe with more wear it'll stretch out more because I've worn it twice and I like washed it just like immediately after finishing it. So maybe with more wears and or washes, it'll kind of relax out a little bit more. That's probably the biggest thing that I would likely change. I'm also noticing the collar has relaxed out a decent amount. So I'm thinking about maybe putting like a strand of elastic or threading a few strands of elastic throughout it with, I have like elastic thread just to help with it maybe not relaxing out so much. But I really like wearing sweaters with like button downs underneath them like this. So it honestly kind of works because that's part of the reason I like the idea of the V-neck for this, was because I feel like it looks really nice with it. That's kind of my preferred way to style a lot of my sweaters. So I have notes, but am I going to take this apart? Am I going to change it at all? 100% not, because I don't think I could ever unwind more of that sweater or like figure out all these cable patterns again, because it was a lot of work. Yeah, so that's the cable knit sweater. I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy with it. I will make more cable knit sweaters in the future. I've talked about, I don't often buy patterns because I like to kind of come up with my own, but one that is kind of on my list is My Favorite Things Knitwear sweater number 15. I already have yarn that I wanted to do like this style of a sweater with anyways, and I kind of thought, you know, I've done my own cable knit sweater. Maybe it would be advantageous to like actually follow a pattern and maybe learn some things, and maybe I won't have fit issues. Maybe, we shall see. That's kind of far down on the horizon though, because I have a lot of other plans that I'm going to try and focus on before purchasing any patterns. So like I said, I worked on a lot of gift knits actually, because I've really been trying to focus on like finishing up my whips and not purchasing yarn. I've been pretty good about that. I'll get into that, but I sometimes get bored with my whips, and I kind of got stuck in this rut, especially when I was on Sleeve Island with this and my only other projects are like all just stockinette stitch. I was getting really bored and I really wanted to knit something else, but I was like, no, I wanted to finish everything before I start anything new. But I made an exception because I had some gift ideas and I thought, you know what, if there's any reason to break a rule, it's because I have gift ideas. So I actually made a lot of gifts in January for all different people. It was really fun. It was really exciting. It made me want to make more gift knits just because it was almost like a new challenge to like figure out, what's this person gonna like? What do I have that could like fit into what they might wear or might pick? And how can I kind of formulate a project to them? Because obviously most of the time I'm thinking about what I like, and I kind of know what I like at this point. So it's sort of like a new challenge, and it's fun to be able to share my giant collection with everyone. So the first that I made was for my sister-in-law. Her and my brother-in-law just had their first baby on January 30th, so at the very end of the month. So in January, I worked on sort of some like gifts for after the baby was born. I made my sister-in-law a pair of cozy socks because I thought, you know, it just might be like a nice gift to get. You know, I wanted to give the mom something because, I don't know, I don't have kids, but I read about online how people are always like, you know, after you have a baby, people don't care about you anymore. It's just the baby. So I was like, I want to give her something. And I thought, I make stuff, so I'll make something. So I made these cozy pair of socks. Her favorite color is purple, so that's why I went with purple. I held fingering weight double, so it's like a DK weight, just like vanilla sock. And then I used this brown as a contrast, because then I also used that as sort of like the secondary gift that's also goes together with this, because I thought it would be really nice to give the baby something. Also, not that they know that's happening, but to have a little handmade something for the baby. I found this free pattern. This is a Purl Soho pattern. I actually followed a pattern, which doesn't happen very often. And it was really easy, honestly. It was a good pattern. And it's just garter stitch this little matching hat and booties, and it was a really fast knit. Oh my gosh, baby stuff is so fast to knit. I think I knit this in like a weekend, so that was fun. It was also a sport weight yarn, so it went like decently fast. But I used this brown yarn for that because they hadn't figured out, or they weren't figuring out the gender. They wanted it to be a surprise. So I thought this nice like ambery brown was really pretty and was a nice neutral. And then that's also then what I used the contrast color in the socks, so they sort of match. So that was my first endeavor in gift knitting for the month. And then I had so much fun. I was like, what else can I do here? So one of my brothers and then another one of my sister-in-laws both have a birthday in January that we were kind of getting together as a family to celebrate. And so I made them both a hat. I made my brother this really kind of chunky hat. It is, I believe, K&C brand. The label wasn't on it, but my best guess is that it's K&C brand, and it's their alpaca acrylic blend. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I think, I'll put a picture in here. I think this is what it was. But I used most of a skein actually, because I made it so it's like got a really thick foldable brim. He works outside a lot, and he also works in like a refrigerated facility. So I know that he wears hats a lot. So I gave him that, and he seemed really excited about it. And then my other sister-in-law, her birthday, like I said, is also in January. And I thought when I was working this like lavender yarn, it's so pretty, and it kind of made me think of her too. So I used it again. I held it double, and I used the Honeysuckle Knits hat pattern. It is the Coffee Beanie is what it's called. And I've used that before. That's like my third hat that I've knit using that pattern. I think so. And I really liked it. It's a 1x1 rib, so it's another kind of just like classic pattern. And she also really liked it. So that was really fun to be able to do lots of gift knits in the month of January. And it's kind of fun to not only be able to use up my stash, but also like, I don't want to say get rid of it, but you know, I've talked about before, I have a lot of yarn, and I've thought about how like, I don't have room for all this yarn in my closet. So it's kind of fun not only to make for others, but also to know that I'm kind of like alleviating my stash out in the world, that I'm giving it away entirely. So it was just very enjoyable. And then early February is when I finished my masterpiece, this sweater. And then I know I've been trying not to start any new projects. I made exceptions for the gift knits, but I finished this, and I have a couple projects I have been working on that I'll share, but I was feeling uninspired, I guess is the best word. I don't know. This is like essentially a sport weight. I've got two big garment projects that I've been working on forever, it feels like, that are both fingering weight sweaters. I've got a fingering weight dress that I've been working on, and I've got a lace weight top that I've been working on. And it's like just all kind of boring stuff and all stuff that's going really slow. And I think that's half of the reason that like I have so many whips, is because I get bored with them and I just put them to the side and I start something new. And so I decided I really wanted like a quick knit. I needed something to kind of fill the void, give me something that I can like finish real fast, and will give me kind of that dopamine to keep me going on a big project, so I could just kind of take a break. So I did start another project, and I've already finished it. It took me only a week, but I used yarn that I have literally had in my stash for probably 3 years, and I've had this exact vision with for probably 3 years, and I had just not like gotten around to ever doing it. So I bought this yarn. It's from an indie dyer that I found on Instagram. Their brand is Purl and Post, and I have a few different yarns from them. I think this might have been the first thing that I bought from them, but the yarn is called Jawbreaker, which I love. And I can show you the skein. You can see it's definitely got that like exact variegation that a Jawbreaker has, which is why I was really into this when I saw it. And it's a DK weight. Now, probably when I bought this, I wasn't really thinking about this. I just knew it was like pretty, and this was kind of my era of like, I don't know what I'm buying, but like this is pretty, so I'm buying some. I got 3 skeins of it. It is a single strand, which I don't really get much nowadays because I find that they just pill a lot easier and they don't necessarily wear as well long term. But the idea that I had for it, which I still agree is like valid, was to make a vest out of it, because that way I wouldn't have like basically the underarm pilling that happens a lot with yarn that tends to pill, because there wouldn't be friction of yarn up against yarn. So I've wanted to make a vest forever. Also because I just feel like it's such a perfect yarn to have like a white speckly vest. I can pair it with so many different things. And so that was my impulse project. Now I had 3 skeins of this and I really was honestly like, oh, I'm gonna run out of yarn probably. I use fingering weight or like sport weight most of the time, so I'm not really familiar with how far like DK or larger is really gonna go. So I was like, oh, I hope 3 skeins is enough. I still have this much left. I caked them all up because I was worried about like color pooling, or, you know, obviously they're dyed by hand, so they are likely to probably look different some way. So I did use from all 3 of them because I did basically helical knitting, and I used all 3 at once at one point, which was, I wouldn't recommend. That wasn't a fun situation. So I did use a decent amount. I think in total it was like about a full skein and a half, but I still have 3 left, so I didn't like finish up a skein. I don't know what it is about like the satisfaction of like actually getting to the end of a skein, but I did not achieve that in this project, so that's kind of a bummer. And now I don't really know what to do with this, but it is really cute, so I will definitely find a project. But to show you my actual finished project, and I actually just washed and blocked this today, so it's fresh. It might still be a little damp, but you'll be able to get the idea. I made this little vest, and I think it's so cute. Like I said, it literally took me a week and a day, so it was a lovely little impulse project. And because I finished it, I don't feel bad because I don't have another whip that exists. You can kind of see some variance being a hand-dyed yarn. You can see from where I split from the arms that there's more color up top than there is at the bottom. And then especially, and this is back, so I wasn't as worried about it, but especially in the back, you can see, I think, that there's a lot more color on the bottom than there is the top. But I don't think it looks bad. Like, I really like the variance, and I wear tons of pink and blue, so I just am really excited to be able to pair this with a lot of different stuff, because I don't know, I just think it's really versatile, and it is so fluffy and soft. I love it. So this is my newest finished object that's just like I said, kind of my impulse project, but I had a lot of fun, and like I said, it went so fast. I know this is like an equally boring project. I was just complaining about stockinette, but I don't know, I just don't knit with DK very often, so it was like, wow, this is going so fast. I'm using like a size, I think like a US 7, so not even a large needle. I just, let's see, this project was a US 5, and the other sweater I'm about to talk about, I'm using a US 2. So that's why I think it felt like I just like blew through this, because everything else is going so slow. But I'm really excited about it. So I haven't worn it yet because I just blocked it like 2 hours ago. But it fits fantastically and I love it. It's just like a really nice kind of relaxed fit, but still a little cropped. I wear a lot of skirts and things that I feel like that cropped look looks better with, so that way I can kind of dress it up a little bit more without it looking like baggy and oversized too much. So yeah, really excited about it. If you have any ideas for my leftover yarn, let me know, because like it's definitely not enough to make another garment with, maybe an exactly similar vest. That's the only other thing. I don't know, I've been wanting to make one of those like hoods that I've seen be really popular recently. So I don't know if this would be a good yarn. That almost feels like it would be too bulky though, so I don't know. I just have a weird amount left, and I already looked through my stash at similar yarns, and I don't think any of them really match, which is shocking because all those colors are stuff that I love and are in my stash, but it's fine. If I don't use it all right now, that's fine. I used a decent amount, so I'm happy with that. So the other projects that I've been focusing on, it's not incredibly numerous because obviously I kind of took a sidebar on a totally different project and a lot of gift knits, but I have made some progress that I'll talk about. So if you have watched any of my podcasts before, you know I've talked about that I'm making a cardigan for my mom. This is for her birthday that was in September. But that was when we got the yarn, and obviously I did some like kind of trial and error with what the project was going to look like. And then I finally started like, I think it was in December, so it's been a hot minute ago, but I have made some progress. But yeah, this is the project that I'm using a, I believe size 3 on, or my needles don't say. Yeah, it's a size 3. So it's going pretty slow, but I'm using 100% alpaca, and it is probably about a sport weight, maybe somewhere between a sport and a fingering because it's pretty light. Yeah, probably somewhere in between, but it's really soft. It's just this nice cream color. It's actually the same yarn, like the main yarn that's in this is the exact same. So you can probably see there's a lot of comparison there. There's just no like undyed Surrey mixed with it, so it's a little bit darker. But I'm working on like the front panel right now for the cardigan, and honestly, I think I'm gonna wash this because I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly how long to make it. It looks really janky right now, but it's definitely like in progress. So this is obviously like the panel that's going to go along the edge, and then this is a pocket. I just basically made like a flap with the fabric, and then obviously I'm going to seam this up, but I want to wait till it's washed so that it can kind of relax out a bit. But I have kind of paused on this because I want to wash it, because I'm trying to figure out exactly where to like decrease for the armhole, and I know that alpaca stretches a decent amount, so I want to wash it and let it hopefully kind of stretch a little bit because I don't want the pocket to be too low so that it's like unusable. I think I'm kind of to the point where I'm probably likely to cast off a little bit for the sleeve, which I can kind of show. Like if I were to right now, that's where the pocket sits. But I think after washing, it'll probably relax out quite a bit. So that's the next steps on this. And then I don't think the rest of this will take too much longer because it's obviously going to get thinner the further up that I go. So it'll probably go a bit faster. And this isn't even what I would consider like, it's not even going slow. It's just a little boring. It's a little interesting because I have like a little cable and one twisted knit stitch. So there's a little bit of visual interest, but it's not incredibly exciting. So I had kind of put this to the side for a little bit, but I do need to get back to it. I had also kind of put this on hold, mostly just because I had this knit and I have another sweater I'm about to talk about that I had been working on a lot longer, and I kind of know at this point this is not going to be done for this winter season. I will probably get it done for like this upcoming fall. And so I thought, if I want to still have the opportunity to wear a couple of my knits that are close to being done, I needed to just kind of focus on those for a little bit. So I did kind of put this to the side for that reason as well. And then the other large garment that I've been working on for myself is a sweater that I don't think I've talked about for a while because it's honestly been a while since I had really sat down and worked on it. So this is my fingering weight sweater that I was talking about that I'm using a size 2 needle for. And I'm using hand-dyed yarn from Ruby and Roses, one of my favorite indie yarn dyers. And I've had this yarn forever. I bought it on clearance from them. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. This is actually some of the first like variegated indie dyed yarn I ever purchased, which is like a little scary. I'm kind of surprised I think it's as cute as it is because like I bought it a long time ago. So it's kind of like I'm pleasantly surprised that I still really like it. It's called a princess tail. Like I said, it's like not something they sell anymore. I have been referring to it as my mermaid sweater because I think it kind of looks like mermaid colors and that's what it makes me think of. But wow, it's really hard to see anything because it's so variegated. But you can see it's mostly blue and then lots of pink and green and white. So that's why it makes me think of water with like a mermaid swimming through it. I do still really like it. I do also though think that this sweater has taught me that I don't know if I like variegated yarn garments because it is very busy looking. Now I think that it'll style really nicely and I don't dislike it. But it has kind of taught me that I don't think I'll continue to buy a lot of variegated yarn and that tonals just, they're a lot easier to use. They're a lot more versatile. So I think the last I had talked about this, I don't even know, maybe it was on my original channel. so I maybe not even posted anything about this on this channel, but I had not even finished the body. So all I had to do was like, I was doing bottom up. So all I had to do was basically finish going up, I think the back side, it doesn't really matter, but, and then cast off, and then I like seam together. You can't even probably see it because it's too busy, but I have really liked being able to make garments that are like actually seamed at the shoulders, because I find that it gives them so much better like long-term structure, especially because, you know, because I self-draft a lot, there is a lot of trial and error in that, and there's a lot that I'm kind of just, I don't want to say guessing about, but I'm making sort of an educated guess about. And if you've watched my main channel, this is a lot of how I sew too, is I really just like to kind of problem solve on my own. And a lot of how I figure out the best way to make stuff is by looking at clothes I already own and like mass produced items, which is not always the best option, but something that you can count on is that a lot of times clothing has went through like possibly dozens of drafts before they finalized the actual like pattern pieces and construction of it. And so there is a lot to be learned from just like the consumer industry and how they manufacture clothing. And something that I noticed about sweaters is that raglans, I don't want to say you don't find them, but they're pretty uncommon, just because a lot of times those seamed garments are not only faster to manufacture, which isn't what I'm really concerned about, obviously I'm knitting, but they tend to hold their shape better over time. And that's also why I found that I do a lot of thrift shopping, and a lot of older sweaters that I've found are seamed garments, and they tend to look a lot better after a long time. And I also feel like they just kind of fit better, that it's something that I notice actual fit differences because the necklines don't stretch out as much, the shoulders are shaped a little bit better. I just feel like they have better longevity. So I'm like a pro seam your garments. I know that's like so popular nowadays to like, I want a no seams garment, you know, just like a top down seamless, like you just pick up stitches everywhere. That's great and makes a garment really stretchy. I just find that it doesn't fit very well for me. And it might just be specifically me. I have like pretty broad shoulders, and so I think that's probably part of it, of why stuff fits weird in the shoulders if it's not really structured. But like I said, I'm very pro seaming garments because I just think they fit better for a longer period of time. They hold their shape really well. That's also something that when people are like, oh, this type of yarn stretches out so much, you can kind of avoid that a little bit if you seam, because that seam's gonna keep its shape. Like it's not gonna stretch out like yarn will. Anyways, that's my spiel, but I did bottom up and then cast off for the shoulders and seamed. I'm really a fan of doing, I used like a, I had to make sure I'm not losing stitches. I use a crochet hook is what it's called, and just do a chain stitch along here. It gives it a little bit of stretch, but not a lot. So, you know, it can move if need be, but if, you know, it's a section like a shoulder seam that you don't really want it to, it has a max for how much it's gonna stretch. Also ignore that I have one hand painted and one hand not. That's my style. I did that on purpose. So I got the entire body done, and then I went ahead and picked up stitches for sleeve number 1. It is gonna be like a drop shoulder, so it's a pretty regular sleeve size. And then I got sleeve number 1 totally done, which I'm pretty excited about. And I went ahead and started on the neckline because I feel like that's something that always gives me gumption to like get the project done. When you see the neckline is done, it makes it look so much more finished versus when it's all like rolled in on itself and it looks like your neckline like this big. So I picked up stitches. I've done a little bit. I've got a few rows done, not a huge amount, but it was quite a few stitches because it's fingering weight. So it is a little time consuming, but I'm hoping to have this done pretty soon. Because it's fingering weight, I think this is a really nice weight for like springtime and kind of like transition weather. I have another fingering weight sweater, and it is literally one of my favorite sweaters I own and that I've ever made because it is just such a nice like layerable weight. So I'm hoping this also kind of fits the bill for that. Like I said, I know it's kind of busy, but I feel like, you know, blue and pink are just so easy to pair with stuff, and that I can probably kind of like, I don't want to say like comb the sweater down, but style in a way that like makes a lot of sense for it. So I'm really excited about this. Hopefully this will be done soon, especially since I haven't got a lot done in the last couple weeks because I was working on my other impulse project, but I'm not too far off and I really have fun working with this. That's been the best advantage of variegated yarn, is I just love seeing like all the colors meld together, and it is just such like a dopamine project to work on something that is really colorful, because I hit like a wall with this sweater that I just was like, I'm so tired of staring at tan, that I almost started like a big sweater project midway through because I was like, I need something colorful to look at. I can't just stare at tan anymore. So that's been a big advantage of this. And then the last project that I have been working on quite a bit, not a ton, but this is my like take with me project, so I get a little bit done here and there, is a pair of socks that I started actually last summer. So they've kind of been on the back burner. To be fair, I started them actually like the day after my birthday, because I bought this yarn around my birthday. Actually, my husband took me to a yarn store and he bought it for me because it was my birthday. So my husband bought this yarn, but yeah, I started it soon after because I talked about this in a podcast last summer, like long ago, but this yarn store that we went to, the lady who had owned the store had passed away, and they were selling like her entire personal stash. And so they had like big grab bags of yarn, and I got a few of them because they were really discounted and it was like nice yarn. And one of them, I liked the yarn that was in it, but I purposely picked out because there was this skein. I have no idea where it's from or what it's called. There was no label with it, but it's definitely like a classic sock yarn. And my husband was like, ooh, that's a nice skein. I like it. And I've been making a few different pairs of socks for my husband, and every single one has been like good, but he'll like wear it once and he never says because he's nice. But I can always just tell by like looking at how it's on his foot that like it's not quite right. And the last pair of socks that I made for him, we bought like nice yarn he picked out at a different yarn store when we were on vacation last year. And it was like a self-striping. I was so excited about it. I thought it was so pretty, and I got it done and realized as soon as I put it on his foot that I had made the heel flap just a little too short. And so they've got like a tight spot where basically your instep is. And oh man, it so frustrated me that I was like, I have to make a better pair. I have to make them fit better. So that's what these socks have been. That's why I'm on sock number 1, 2, 3. I think this is the 4th pair of socks I've made for him. I think so. That's kind of bad. I'm starting to forget, but this is the first sock that I got done. So I've been following just like a vanilla sock pattern from, I have like a Patons yarn, like the yarn brand book that has a bunch of sock patterns in it. And I've been following their pattern. At this point though, I have begun to modify them because I kind of have gotten enough practice at this point, but I realized with the first pair of fingering weight socks that I made for him, the self-striping, I hadn't messed up the pattern. I had actually followed it, but I think like he just needs a bigger instep. So I made the heel flap purposefully almost 1/2 inch too long, and these fit perfect because I put them on and he immediately said, these are fantastic. And I said, are they better than the last pair? And he said, yeah. He still never said anything bad about the first pair, but these are it. I figured it out. So I've been keeping really meticulous notes. That way it's like I've got a fingering weight sock for him like down and designed. And then the contrast color that I'm using is just like a mini skein that I had around. I've got a million minis. So I picked out a few that I was like, I think like these 4 or 5 would go good with this, and he picked out the burgundy color, which I think is really cute. So I have sock number 1 done, and I've started sock number 2. So I'm on my way to getting it done. I got the ribbing done, which is like the second most tedious part. But yeah, like I said, socks are just like that project that's so easy to take with me because it's this. It's not some giant project like a big sweater or whatever. So I've been doing a decent amount on this. I was gonna try and get them done for like Valentine's Day, but obviously that did not happen. So that's fine. We'll get them done. They will be completed soon. And then the final thing that I'm gonna talk about is something that maybe bums me out a little bit because as well as a goal I set for myself for 2025 was to not buy any yarn because I have a lot, and I'm just gonna come out with it and say I broke my yarn ban. That's okay. It's okay. I couldn't help myself, if I'm being honest, because I watch YouTube videos and I saw everybody talking about how Joann's is probably closing, and I watched the news and I saw how Joann's is probably closing, and I have been going to the Joann's in my hometown like my entire life. I remember visiting this Joann's as a child. I worked there a couple years ago for like 2 years. So like I have a long-standing relationship with my local Joann Fabrics, and it did really bum me out to think like they wouldn't be there. Ever since like it was like 2 years ago almost that I stopped working there just because it was my second job and it was kind of overwhelming. So I ended up quitting, and it was fine. But I've only been there like 3 times since I quit because I was like, I don't need supplies of like any sort. Like I said, there was a couple times that I had went there because there was something really specific that I was looking for that I went and purchased. But other than that, like I don't go there because I don't need stuff. But with them probably closing, it just was kind of sad that it was like, man, there's the end of an era here, like obviously they're a really historic company. So that alone is kind of sad that they're going out, but also like, and I'm sure, being in the crafting community online, you're probably seeing people talking about how much of an impact this is having. And, this isn't my livelihood. So like, it's not having a financial impact, but it is just kind of for sentimentality reasons, a sad moment. And like I said, I have a lot of kind of personal connections to Joann's, and so it's a bit of a bummer. So my husband and I a couple weeks ago went to Joann's because it was before we really knew that they were possibly like completely going out, but I thought, if they are, I'm not going to fight people to get like clearance items and to get stuff I probably don't need. So I thought we'll look around and see if there's anything that I might want. I had some Christmas money left that I thought this would be the thing I kind of want to buy with it. So I made some purchases of yarn. I do feel like I was pretty thoughtful about it, so I didn't go crazy or anything. In fact, this is maybe the least amount of yarn that I've bought in like when I go to Joann's to buy yarn, it was usually quite a bit. So I feel pretty good about how little I actually purchased. The first thing that I got is a classic, a recognizable item, the Lily Sugar and Cream. I use this stuff all the time. Probably the item that I make in the highest quantity is crochet washcloths because first off, they're amazing and so useful. I can't stand when anybody dogs on Lily Sugar and Cream because they're like, it's too thick and gets pilly for garments. You're correct. It's not meant for garments. It's meant for household items, and it is fantastic for making washcloths, like for cleaning dishes and stuff, because it has like a really nice kind of roughness to it or rustic quality to it, and they last forever. Like, they're just fantastic. Like I said, I make them all the time. I usually, like every Christmas, give my mom and my mother-in-law and usually a couple of my grandmas a few of these because they're really fast and they're easy and you can make them colorful and fun. I've used so many skeins of this stuff, so this was like my most reasonable purchase. I got a few because like my local Walmart sells these, but they don't have nearly as many colors. So I tried to pick out colors that I don't feel like I see as frequently, that I thought would be fun, and things that I can like mix and match. And I got their like cream and dyed. So I got a few different colors of the Lily Sugar and Cream. It was during their like Yarnormous sale, so these were like 25% off, which other than that, these never go on sale. I worked there for like 2 years. These do not go on sale outside of that. I mean, obviously with them closing, they might be on sale now, but like these don't go on sale. But yeah, so I got these probably mostly to give away because I already have a bunch of these that I've made. The next purchase was like a totally selfish one. Actually, we had been to Joann's probably like 2 months prior to this, and I didn't purchase any yarn. I forget why we were there, but I didn't get any yarn. I saw this though, and I thought about it. I thought it was really cute, but I thought I don't need yarn, so I'm not getting this. But we were there and this was on sale. This is K&C and it's their self-striping sock yarn. And after I made those self-striping socks for my husband, I was like, I really want like a pair for myself. They're so cute. I still have yet to make myself a pair of socks. That is, I've said this like 3 times now, but the next pair of socks that I cast on are gonna be for myself. I have like 4 different socks amount of yarn that I'm like, this is set aside for my socks. It's gonna happen. But yeah, I bought this colorway. It is Tutti Frutti Pop. That's so cute, I hadn't even read it. So yeah, adorable. And this one, which is Classic Rainbow Stripe. It's just made me think of like, it's such like 90s colors. One of my hairs is on it. And I just thought it was so fun and pretty, and I couldn't resist. So I did get some Selfish yarn, but only a couple skeins, and they're so pretty. And honestly, not really like anything else that I own, so whatever. And then the final purchase that I made at Joann's was a little bit more impulsive. It's a little bit different than what I usually purchase or make, but I don't know. It was the last thing that I picked up, so maybe I was just like, ugh, I have to buy something else. Maybe the marketing really got to me, but these were on a pretty good sale, so I really didn't even feel that bad. So these are also from their yarn brand KNC. It is 100% merino, and it's actually 150 grams, so they're pretty bulky skeins. It is a bulky yarn, and it has 131 yards in it. I got 2 skeins of their green, which I feel like it's not showing up amazingly here. It's like a really emerald green, but I feel like it's coming off as more of a grayish green on screen. Oh. And then really out of character, I got 2 skeins of gray, which I like never wear, but then I also got 2 skeins of the blue, and I thought a like classic striped, I can't decide if we'll do sweater or cardigan, but like a striped sweater with these 3. I love it. I love it. Yeah, so hopefully this is enough for a sweater. I don't really trust myself anymore since I thought I needed 3 skeins for a cropped vest. But I'm worried this is going to be the other side of it, that like this is not even going to be close to being enough, but it is a pretty bulky yarn, so I don't know, we'll see. But I did get hopefully enough for a sweater's quantity. And these were only like $10 a skein, which sounds like a lot, but they're 150 grams, which usually skeins like this are 100 grams, and they're usually like twice that price. So I felt pretty good about it, and I really like it, and it might be the last yarn I ever purchased from Joann's, so I didn't feel bad. And that, I think, is all I have to share. That was a lot, honestly, but it's been a couple months, so I've had a lot that I have been into and been busy with. So with that, I will wrap up my March podcast, I guess, and hopefully be able to film a little bit more frequently because the days are getting longer, so it's not dark 30 minutes after I get home from work. So that alone is really helpful. But if you're still with me, thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you enjoyed seeing all my just kind of project madness, and I hope to see you back here again sometime soon.